Hello, Noah Vortex here, and then today I'm doing another Funny Philosophies video. Now, Funny Philosophies video is basically a new video series I've started, which I've already done about 3 or 4 episodes of. You can check those on my channel, and covered a variety of subjects so far, from modernist art to nihilism. So basically, Funny Philosophy is a series where I basically just riff or expand on ideas which are out there in the world, popular ideas in philosophy and thinking, and just give some of my own ideas context and kind of do it in a kind of semi-serious, kind of informative style, I guess. So today I'm going to be talking about humanism. Now, I've already done a video on post-humanism where I talked about humanism, but in this one I'm trying to go a bit further and talk about what is it to be human, I guess. So what marks us out as human beings, and what human values should we cultivate to take ourselves forward ethically, morally, spiritually, all the rest of it. So I'll discuss religion as well, and mine some stuff from philosophy, I guess, as well. So, humanism. What is it? Humanism essentially is a thought, a way of thinking that promotes human values. So it is primarily concerned with, definitely concerned with creating a better world for as many people as possible. It's kind of an egalitarian idea, promoting human values of empathy, understanding, separated from religion and religious dogma often as well. Humanism is definitely often separate from religious dogmas and of orthodox interpretations of religion. Humanism definitely has a complex relationship with religious belief, and I know this myself from people I know who are religious, that we have disagreements a lot of the time. We essentially share a lot of the same principles and moralities, but I lack that faith in a God, as it were, or the God of whatever the religion, whichever God they follow. So let's just try and dive a bit deeper into where humanism as a kind of framework of thought comes from. So you would have, for example, in the past, there are thinkers who've explored the idea of the death of God, or the idea of a world beyond kind of religious frameworks. There's Nietzsche, but I've covered him a lot, so I'm not going to try and avoid talking too much about Nietzsche. Now, the reason I talk a lot about Nietzsche is because he's one of the most philosophers I've read the most. But again, I've gone through him quite a lot in the post-humanism video, and I think even though Nietzsche is very much a humanist in a lot of respects, so he's not really someone I'd associate concretely with humanism. So I'm going to try and think of someone else who philosophically talks a lot about humanism. I guess a lot of the existentialists essentially were humanists in one way or another. Camus talks about the absurd in a lot of his work. In fact, I've got the book here somewhere. Yeah, there we go. This is the myth of, I'm going to mispronounce this because I always do, myth of Sisyphus, based on the Greek myth of Sisyphus, who, and I probably mispronounced that, sorry, who was condemned to roll a boulder up and down again. So basically condemned to a kind of meaningless existence. And in this book, Camus deals with the absurd and that the kind of fact that life has no passed down meaningless, I guess, essentially. Again, a lot of existentialism does basically root from the fact that, as Nietzsche defined it, and many other writers have defined it in that kind of period, religion as a force or an ethical framework is under question. So Camus and a lot of the existentialists came up with a philosophy which was about how to deal with life as it is and create your own meaning, essentially. Existentialism emerged out of nihilism because nihilism taken to its logical conclusion, and I've been there with nihilistic thought, and it's not a pretty place to be because you just deconstruct everything. So, and it's kind of a destructive process of thinking in a lot of ways, which can sometimes be useful. But intellect can be useful in a destructive mode, but of course, obviously, a destructive mode always has to lead to a creative process. Of creative mode, I think you can't just keep on destructing ideas and then not create anything out of the ashes, if you will. So existentialism, in my view, was creating something out of the ashes of nihilism, because nihilism's basic understandings. So yeah, existentialism brought the human into into the sphere of philosophy more than nihilism had, I'd say, because there's no light in nihilism. It's all black, a bit pessimistic, overly pessimistic in a lot of ways. So a recent book I actually read on nihilism was Heights of Suffering by Kiron, Emil Kiron, I think so you pronounce his name. Very good book, very interesting. But in that book, he defines organic philosophers versus I think it's terms like academic philosophers or something, or abstract philosophers. That's it. So he defines, you've got on one hand you've got organic philosophers, and then you've got abstract philosophers. So in this book, Heights of Suffering, which he did in the depths of insomnia, which is something I can very much relate to, having suffered from it myself, he defines the abstract philosophers who want to create an overarching, all-encompassing kind of theory of everything, with organic philosophers who he says are kind of more of a romantic position of valuing subjectivity, a more artistic approach to life in a lot of respects, and more like malleable, I suppose. Probably not the phrase he used, but I digress. So, humanism, in the more modern version of what humanism is, finds its expression through a lot of science, thinkers in science and famous scientists. A lot of the great scientists of history, really, if you trace back most of them, are also great humanists. Einstein is a beautifully succinct and example of a humanist scientist. He's I kind of really don't have to say it. I mean, all his record is there, it's out there. It's constant memes and images of his words and his very wise and kind of insightful views on human nature and how human values are very important to a human science. Stephen Hawking is definitely a humanist. He speaks about God, but how he doesn't think of God, like a lot of the great physicists, as the mechanistic kind of like clockwork God. Newton, older figure in science obviously, but he was religious. He was a Christian, and his idea was kind of like the clockwork God, essentially. The idea of a deterministic God. Sorry. So yeah, I won't go into this. So some other figures in science now who would be very kind of, in my view, a kind of humanist, definitely. Neil deGrasse Tyson, absolutely one of my heroes. America, one of the greatest cultural and scientific figures in America today, and an educator as well. Brilliant man, just a brilliant man who can also relay knowledge in a way that's easy for the layperson to understand, isn't it? He's got a very poetic way of words as well. He's a figure in American science I greatly admire. Cosmologist, and a lot of humanism has a lot of relationships with ideas of reason and the Enlightenment, and also in some respects the Renaissance period, I suppose, as well. So the idea that we can, through knowledge and self-knowledge and also acquiring knowledge about the external world, we can make the world a better place for everybody. So that, which relates to the idea of being egalitarian. So the idea is that we can make the world better through the application of our knowledge, and that reason and scientific progress can lead us to a better world if we apply science with a moral framework, would be how I see in broad terms the humanist, broadly speaking, the humanist interpretation of how to go forward with our world. I would, so I like to be more personal as well, I would certainly describe myself as a secular humanist, and I'm a scientist in the abstract. I'm a computer scientist. I've graduated with a computer science degree, but I'm also a student of knowledge and philosopher. Before I was going to do computer science, which I eventually studied at university, I was also on board to study philosophy at a different university. But I chose computer science in the end for purely economic reasons. Really, I figured as much as I love philosophy, I'm more likely to get a job in a society doing computer science, which is probably going to be true most of the time. But I've still studied philosophy extensively. Let's relate this, I suppose, to some kind of there's new atheism, I guess, which emerged about 10 years ago. So figures like Christopher Hitchens. I've got Richard Dawkins' God Delusion here, actually. Been a long time since I read this. And to be honest, I like this book, but a lot of it is I haven't read it for a long time, like probably 7 years now. A lot of it is quite strong. Obviously, Richard Dawkins is quite often held up as a poster boy for the new atheist movement. And there's some interesting stuff in here about science and reason, and I think sometimes he does go too strong on religion. He has a whole idea in here that he expresses and talks about a lot of, saying moderate religion allows extremists to exist, which I disagree with. I think to be a truly progressive secular humanist, you have to allow people their process to come to their own conclusions. And obviously Richard Dawkins never profess any desire to make people non-religious, because that would go against his fundamentally liberal views, as far as I'm aware, like politically and all the rest of it. He has valid points he makes in here about extreme forms of Islam and extreme Christian right in America. Some interesting documentaries he did as well, but sometimes I just think he's a bit too harsh, but he is an interesting figure. Christopher Hitchens, of course, as well, is dead now, rest in peace. A great orator and a great thinker just on how religion and modern society relate. I mean, in a lot of his views, he basically said that they were incompatible, and in some respects I can kind of understand what it means. I mean, like, there's these ideas of religion came from desert tribes a long time ago, and they all kind of relate back to the idea of the tribe or our group. It's a very hierarchical system. All God is. I mean, God in the orthodox kind of religious interpretations is, you have to follow these dogmas and you have to follow these rules. And humanism and secular kind of thinking is basically a kind of extension of skepticism, the Greek term of it, like, so constantly questioning, being a free thinker. What that usually requires is just, as you guess, just free thinking about things in a skeptical nature. Now, skepticism can become too entrenched, and you'll see this on online cultures somewhere. Sometimes some atheists or some self-professed secular humanist atheists have kind of become entrenched in their own worlds and their echo chambers, which happens a lot with a lot of cultures online. But it's definitely happened in the atheist community, I think. It's probably for like 20 minutes now almost, so I think, like I said, back to the point of, like, a lot of great scientific minds are often humanists. Michio Kaku is another one of interest. So I've got his book, Hyperspace, fascinating, which is more about cosmology and physics. It's a really interesting book, and I recommend you read that. That is here. Such knocks me here. That's Michio Kaku, Hyperspace. Not really anything related to humanism, but that's worth reading. I've got one more random one because I think it's here somewhere. Just trying to grab a book I have which I think might be of interest. Can't find it. So, yeah, I've kind of rambled enough there. Hopefully you've got a good idea of what humanism is about. Essentially it's just human values, touched a bit on existentialism and how that relates to humanism, creating your own meaning, devoid of any kind of like God. And I can't really say much more. It's basically just having a humanist, moral, ethical framework to your life, really. I mean, I think the thing is with humanism, if anything, the beauty of humanism, you don't really have to explain what it is, because it's almost a kind of self-aware knowledge, and acknowledge that it's like as with human nature, you can't really pin it down, but you know what it is because it's just self-evident for being human, and having empathy for others. Having the ability to listen and reason is pretty much the essential point here. Humanism you have to abide by, I think, in a kind of productive and positive humanism. So yeah, I'll sign this off now. So I've been Noir Vortex. This has been Funny Philosophies, and tune in for more. I'm not sure what I'm going to do on next. I might probably do one on kind of physics. I haven't done that yet. I know physics isn't technically a philosophy, but I'm kind of broadening the scope of it, I think. Because I've done kind of like art ones. So. Anyway, I'll end this there. Thanks for watching. I've been Noir Vortex. Tune in at that for funny philosophy.